A few minutes later, Victor stood in the personal garden of Scathach's mansion. Although it was called a garden, the place looked more like a dense forest. Pepper, Scathach's adopted daughter, stood in front of him. She looked at Victor with a serious face. As per my mother's orders, I'm responsible. Victor raised a finger in the air to cut her off. Aren't you going to change your clothes? She looked confused for a moment, then looked down and saw that she was still wearing a towel. Oh! Her face turned bright red. She ran off in her towel at a surprising speed. The second she was out of sight, Victor's shadow expanded and Kaguya stepped out. Lord Victor, do you need anything? Victor smiled contentedly. While we wait for Pepper, do you have any training tips? Kaguya considered his request. I'm not sure. You see, noble vampires instinctively know how to use their powers when they are born. The only problem we have is controlling the intensity. After all, depending on the noble vampire's bloodline, their power can reach absurd levels. Victor stroked his chin. I see, so you are born geniuses. Kaguya shook her head. Wrong. We're like babies who instinctively know how to cry or ask their mother for food. We instinctively know how to use our power. The only struggle is learning to control it. Victor nodded. I get what she's saying. It's like moving an arm. One instinctively knows how. Victor heard footsteps and saw Pepper returning wearing new clothes, a red uniform and black tights. Kaguya stepped to the side to observe the training session. Pepper looked at Victor, a little flustered. Okay, let's continue. We're going to skip the basics. After all, you already know what your unique powers are. So, what we are going to do today is learn to control the basic powers of a vampire. Victor raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? She pointed at a tree in the distance. Watch this. Pepper closed her eyes, prepared to sprint, and summoned a thick fog over her body. Suddenly, she disappeared, and then reappeared in the same position right in front of the tree. She called back to Victor. See, this is a basic skill for all vampires. As creatures of the night, we can blend in easily. What I've demonstrated is called fog walking. Victor's eyes were gleaming with curiosity. That was cool. Can all vampires do this? Kaguya answered. Yes, it's a basic skill. The other basic skills are bat transformation, night vision, and claws. She pointed her hand at Victor, and he saw it begin to morph. Her nails grew sharper and more deadly as her hand rippled with muscles. Pepper looked at Kaguya with a pout on her face. Kaguya looked back at Pepper with a stoic expression. Pepper scoffed. Victor saw Kaguya's black eyes turning blood red. Something was bothering her. Pepper explained. Noble vampires usually ignore these basic abilities and focus only on the powers they inherited from their parents. For example, she pointed to Kaguya. This maid has the power to control shadows, and using those powers, she modified the basic vampire skills to merge with them. Victor remembered Kaguya's fight with Mizuki and nodded in agreement. She seemed to walk in the shadows during that fight. Pepper refocused on Victor. Why don't you try to get used to the basic powers first? When you get used to them, we'll train the powers you were born with. Victor was confused. Why should we train these powers if they aren't used a lot? After all, he hadn't seen his wives using these powers. Pepper clarified. My mother always said that the basics are the most important. You need a strong foundation to build the pillars for your strength in the future. Victor shrugged. I'll give it a shot. He positioned himself to run. But before he could do anything, he heard Kaguya warning him. Remember, Lord Victor, don't use your unique powers. Just use your basic powers. Victor heeded her advice. Let's see what happens. Pepper said I know how to use this ability instinctively. Victor closed his eyes and thought of the image of Pepper running. He opened his eyes and tried to imitate her movements. He bolted for the tree. On the other side of the house, Lacus and Sienna were drinking red tea when they heard a booming explosion, as if a lightning bolt had felled the tree. Lacus was startled by the sudden noise. Sienna was unfazed. The noise came from the garden. I think it's our mother's special guest. Lacus jumped up to investigate. Sienna sighed. Such a warrior. Back in the garden, Pepper and Kaguya stared in disbelief as a raging fire engulfed a fallen tree. They saw Victor stagger out of a cloud of smoke, his body enveloped in flames. Kaguya crossed her arm. Well, I knew it would happen, but it's an even bigger fire than I expected. Pepper was freaking out. Oh no, the forest is on fire! Kaguya shot her a condescending glare. Calm down and use your powers. Pepper's expression lit up. Oh! Pepper stomped her foot down and the ground cracked open. A geyser of water exploded from the cracks beneath them. The water covered the forest, snuffed out the growing flame. Kaguya gave her a thumbs up. Good job. Pepper giggled, flattered. Kaguya used her speed to run toward Victor. Pepper followed. Kaguya helped him to his feet. Lord Victor, didn't I tell you not to use your powers? Victor dusted himself off. I didn't mean to use them. Kaguya looked at the ground around Victor and saw that the soil was filled with small pieces of ice. Victor noticed a look in her eyes. I think she's plotting something. He ignored it and explained what happened. I tried to run like Pepper, but for some reason my abilities kicked in. He pointed at the crater in the ground. I didn't know what happened. Pepper looked surprised. You tried to run like me and created this giant crater? The trio heard Lacus's concerned voice as she approached. Pepper, what's going on? She saw the crater, shocked. Oh, wow. Kaguya tapped Victor's shoulder. Lord Victor, can you do something for me? He gave her a curious look. Sure. What? Follow me. Kaguya burst into a sprint. Victor followed behind her, struggling to keep up. Pepper and Lacus followed along as well, puzzled about what was going on. Kaguya came to a stop in front of an ordinary tree. See that tree? Victor nodded. I want you to pull the tree out of the ground and throw it in a random direction. Victor didn't understand the purpose of this, but he complied. He approached the tree trunk and placed his hands around the trunk. He braced himself and lifted up, ripping the tree out of the ground and hurling it through the air. The tree sailed through the air and suddenly froze mid-flight. The tree fell to the ground and broke the ice covering it. Immediately, the tree was surrounded by powerful flames as lightning shot down from the sky. Kaguya nodded knowingly. Just like I thought. Lacus yelled in frustration. Bullshit! Pepper was startled by the sudden scream. Victor furrowed his brow. Why are you screaming, woman? Lacus swallowed and stared into his eyes. Don't you understand what you just did? Victor felt a rush of fear over him. He trembled. What did I do?
Wait, that's not the end. You've just had a free taste. Now get the full story on the Pocket FM app, link in description. Check out our next video and playlist, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.